In 1979, a white actor put on brown contact lenses and dark makeup to play a proud Chicano gang member from the barrio. The studio rewrote the character's entire background to justify it. Real gang members were hired as extras, and the set turned into a war zone. This is Walk Proud, and what happened next, the backlash, the protests, and the lasting impact on Hollywood is a story the industry would rather you forget. Walk Proud didn't start as a controversy. Evan Hunter, the guy who wrote The Blackboard Jungle back in 1954, another film about urban youth, spent time in Los Angeles researching Chicano gangs. He interviewed law enforcement, social workers, Mexican-American youth. He wrote a screenplay about a young gang member named Emilio Mendez, full-blooded Chicano, proud of his heritage, caught between loyalty to his gang and a girl who made him question all of it. Then, Robby Benson read it. Benson was a teen heartthrob. He'd just come off Ode to Billy Joe and One on One. He had that audience, young, loyal, reliable box office. When Benson attached himself to the project, Universal greenlit it immediately, because in Hollywood, the right star solves every problem. Except this time, it created the biggest one. The original script had Emilio Mendez as full-blooded Chicano. That was the whole point. A young man proud of his Mexican heritage, struggling to escape gang life without abandoning his identity. But Robby Benson wasn't Chicano. He wasn't even close. So the character had to change to fit the actor. Producer Lawrence Turman, under pressure from both the studio and Mexican-American groups who saw the casting as a problem, added a subplot. Emilio's father was white, an Anglo who got his Mexican mother pregnant when she was 16 and disappeared. Now Emilio was half white, and suddenly the casting could be justified. But even that wasn't enough. Benson still looked white. So they put him in brown-tinted contact lenses. They darkened his skin with makeup. They had him affect a barrio accent and a gangster walk. And here's where the production really started to unravel. The filmmakers wanted realism, so they hired actual gang members from Venice as extras, real guys from the neighborhood. Now here's something the movie doesn't advertise. The cast playing high school teenagers were not teenagers. Pepe Serna, who played the gang leader Cesar, was 34 years old. Trinidad Silva, who played Dagger, was 28. Domingo Ambris was 30. These were grown men playing kids. It looked like every one of them got held back a few grades. But the age issue was the least of the production's problems. They shot scenes in Culver City, Santa Monica, different neighborhoods, different gangs, different rules. The Venice extras clashing with local crews who didn't appreciate outsiders filming on their turf. Reports from the time describe altercations breaking out on set. According to accounts from UCLA scholars who later studied the production, Benson himself got into a confrontation with local gang members during filming. A white actor in Brownface, acting tough in a world where tough wasn't an act. The Chicano community didn't need to wait for the premiere to know what Walk Proud was. Word had been spreading since production. Universal had tried damage control early. They consulted with Barrios Unidos, a local organization dedicated to preventing gang violence. They worked with Nosotros, a group that supports Latinos in entertainment. They wanted the community's blessing. But no amount of consultation could undo the fundamental problem, and the protests over Boulevard nights and the Warriors, which had already led to violence at screenings and theater closures, had the Chicano community on high alert. By April 1979, Chicano organizations in Los Angeles, Dallas, Denver, and San Francisco announced they would protest. Students at East Los Angeles College formed something called the Gang Film Exploitation Committee. They assembled organizing packets and distributed them to campuses and community groups across the region. The Chicano Cinema Coalition, a group of young Latino filmmakers, put out a position statement and threatened legal action against the film industry. Universal got nervous. Walk Proud was scheduled to open May 25, 1979, and it did, in 14 markets. But Universal pulled the plug on the openings in Los Angeles, Dallas, Denver, and San Francisco. Those 4 cities, the ones with the most organized protest movements, were cut from the premiere. Walk Proud eventually limped into the remaining markets on June 15th, but by then it didn't matter. The film was already dead. Walk Proud bombed. The whole film cost $2.4 million and it couldn't even make that back. The film disappeared from theaters fast and never came back. For decades, Walk Proud became one of those movies that just didn't exist. It rarely aired on television. It wasn't part of the Chicano cinema conversation. When people talked about Chicano gang films, they mentioned Boulevard Nights, later American Me and Blood In, Blood Out. Walk Proud got skipped over like it never happened. And the thing is, the film still had real Latino talent. Pepe Serna, Trinidad Silva, Henry Darrow, Domingo Ambriz, Gary Carlos Cervantes, real actors who brought authenticity to nearly every role except the one that mattered most. Years later, in a Blu-ray interview for the 2022 Kino Lorber release, Pepe Serna defended the casting. He pointed out that Benson being cast led to the rest of those roles going to Latino actors. In his view, it worked out in the wash. Maybe he had a point. Maybe getting those roles mattered more than who got top billing. But you shouldn't have to trade the lead role to get to supporting ones. That's not a win. That's a compromise forced by a system that didn't trust Latino actors to carry a film. Walk Proud is a strange artifact. A film made with supposedly good intentions that got almost everything wrong in execution. They hired a legendary screenwriter. They consulted community groups. They cast real Latino talent in nearly every role except the one that mattered most. And when the community pushed back, the studio blinked, but only after the cameras had already stopped rolling. But here's the part of the story that nobody talks about. The protests actually worked, and not just in the way you'd expect. For the first time, Chicano activists weren't only saying what they didn't want. They were publicly calling on Hollywood to depict Latinos as families, not just gang members, as workers, as dreamers, as human beings. That was a new demand, a clear one. And by the end of the 1980s, filmmakers started answering that call. Stand and Deliver came out in 1988, a film that showed Latino characters as people with dreams and futures. Walk Proud is a film at odds with itself. Robby Benson is earnest in his portrayal of Emilio, but earnest isn't enough when the whole foundation is wrong. Despite his dedication, the lack of authenticity permeates the entire film, pulling you out of moments that should feel raw and genuine. There are scenes of tension and camaraderie among Emilio's gang that hint at a more authentic story lurking beneath the surface. But those moments get undercut by a love story that's sweet but simplistic, a redemption arc that feels rushed, and dialogue that doesn't trust the audience to fill in the blanks. Walk Proud wanted to be a gritty portrait of gang culture and an uplifting tale of personal growth. It sacrificed the grit for sentimentality and ended up feeling shallow. If you've seen Walk Proud, drop a comment. What did you think? And if you saw it back in '79 when it first came out, I want to hear that story.